1820, she ran a fossil store. She put the bones together for the terrors. And science was the province of men of noble birth. But I take Mary Annie over those stuff white shirts.
Hey everyone, this is Stem Fatale.
Yeah, our Women in Science History podcast.
Yes, our Women in Science History podcast. And I'm Emlyn, like Gremlin.
And I'm Emma, like Dilemma.
And I think we're just going to jump right into it.
As usual.
I tried to come up with a fun question, an intro question, and I couldn't. But I have a question, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah. So
I'll take it.
So it's Pride Month.
It is.
So I wanted to find...
That's not a question.
No, wait. It's
okay.
It's an intro to the question.
Yeah.
So I wanted to find an LGBTQ plus lady scientist. Do you know of any off the top of your head?
I do. Sally Ride.
Okay. She's a astronaut, right?
Yeah.
Nice. We're not talking about Sally Ride. The more the merrier.
I do know a couple others, but I'm blanking on names right now.
It's all good.
But now I'll know one more name.
Yes, you. Well, maybe.
Okay. What?
Okay, so I was thinking you were going to say no.
Oh, okay.
So then what I was going to say was that's not surprising, especially since we are focusing on lady scientists who are primarily dead.
Right.
And they lived during times when being out was a much more dangerous and controversial thing to do. So we don't hear that about that many women in science
Rachel
who are...
Carson.
Really?
Yeah.
Man.
But that's someone who never officially came out.
Yeah.
Had, anyway.
Yeah, so I was looking and I was trying to find, there's a bunch of lists of, LGBTQ scientists you should know about and stuff like that. And then I picked this woman.
Yeah.
And as I was kind of delving into it deeper, it's hard to tell, she never openly came out.
Right.
And so it's a lot of assumptions being made. And yeah, especially for a career woman, there weren't a lot of career women who were very open about their sexuality earlier on. So today I'm talking about Louise Pearce.
Oh, okay. I think I've heard
of her
name. Yeah.
Okay. So she turns up in a lot of articles about LGBTQ scientists.
Oh, nice.
But we'll talk about this more later. It's really hard to determine if she was lesbian or bisexual or just kind of an advocate.
Yeah.
And had a normative lifestyle.
Yeah.
But what we do know about her is that she was a lesbian and bisexual advocate and that she was a very unorthodox woman.
Aw,
so
that's great.
Are you ready? You ready to hear about her?
I am ready.
Okay.
I'm excited.
So Louise Pearce was born on March 5th, 1885 in Winchester, Massachusetts to Charles Ellis Pearce, a cigar and tobacco dealer, and to Susan Elizabeth Holt.
Oh.
And then I just have a word and a question. I just have the word childhood, where I was hoping to fill that in. I found literally no details.
Oh, man.
So just imagine Massachusetts.
Yeah.
The late 1800s.
Yeah.
Something about that.
That's something where, if we had more time and money to be historians.
Yeah.
And we're historians, not grad students.
In science.
Maybe,
yeah.
That's information we could find
in
a library somewhere in the world.
Yeah, somewhere. But I couldn't find any books. I found a couple books that were 25 women in science you should know about. And so there was a couple pages, but there's no big biography where you can find a lot about her childhood.
Right.
But so she had a childhood.
I assume so.
Yeah, she was a child.
Was an adult. At one point, she was a child.
And then sometime before she turned 15, her family moved to a ranch in the Los Angeles area.
Oh, nice.
And the reason why we know that is because there are records that she attended the girls' collegiate school in Los Angeles.
Oh, cool.
Between 1900 and 1903. And then she attended Stanford University in Palo Alto.
Oh, that's where I'm from.
Yeah.
Yay.
And graduated with a BA degree in histology and physiology in 1907.
Wow.
So Histology is the study of the microscopic structure of tissues and cells.
Right.
Whereas physiology is the study of, I guess, normal functions of living organisms. So, like, a little bigger scale. And then, after graduation, Louise worked at Boston University School of Medicine as an instructor of embryology, study of embryos, and an assistant in histology. So she's going back and forth between the coasts when that's not very easy to do.
Yeah.
Because
planes? Kind of intense. No planes.
No planes?
Wait, what year? This was
1908.
I'm going to say no planes.
No planes, but trains and automobiles.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So, at Johns Hopkins...
Sorry. We know so little.
I know. It
sucks.
About transportation, but, like, really, do we need to know that much about, like, historic transportation?
Probably not, but it's one of those things where I feel like I just should know that somehow, like, and then as a person.
And then for every time we say somebody moved, we have to be like, they drove, swam, planed, I don't know. What did they do?
Flapped their wings.
Yeah. Louise worked at Boston University, and then in 1908, she attended Johns Hopkins University School of Medicine and obtained her MD.
Ooh, wow.
So... she got her MD in 1912, and she was the third in her graduating class.
Oh my gosh.
And after receiving her MD, she served as an intern at Johns Hopkins Hospital for a little bit. And then in 1913, Louise Pearce got a prestigious position as a staff member of the Phipps Psychiatric Clinic at Johns Hopkins Hospital.
Wow.
However, she did not want to do that for probably multiple reasons. But Dr. Pearce wanted to have a laboratory research position. So she didn't want to didn't want to have a clinical position, but she wanted to do some research.
Yeah, like maybe she was dealing with patients.
Yeah.
And wanted just...
A psychiatric clinic is probably...
That's probably really hard.
Yeah. So she wrote to this guy, Dr. Simon Flexner, director of the Rockefeller Institute of New York, and asked for a position. So you can just do that. And Dr. Flexner was impressed by her record, and he also desired a woman for his staff because it was an all-male staff at that time.
Oh.
So he was like, she's super qualified. It would be nice to, maybe have a lady. So he hired her as an assistant fellow working directly under him. Which sounds dirtier than it was. At the Rockefeller Institute, she also worked with Dr. Wade Hampton Brown, who studied susceptibility and resistance of hosts to infection.
Oh, cool.
And together, Brown and Pearce worked together for the rest of her career, and they used rabbits as a model organism to study trypanosomiasis.
Oh, trypanosomes.
Yeah. Also known as African sleeping sickness.
Yeah, right.
So now we're going to go into the disease corner for a little bit.
Ooh, fun.
Yeah.
I love diseases. Not in me.
Yeah, or in other people, but the concept.
Yeah, information about diseases.
Yeah, they're fascinating and horrifying.
Yeah.
I think people love things that terrify them.
Yeah.
So, African sleeping sickness, African trypanosomiasis, which I'm just going to call sleeping sickness because trypanosomiasis, it's a very long word. It's caused by microscopic parasites, more specifically flagellated protozoa, and it is transmitted by a specific species of tsetse fly, which is found only in rural Africa.
Right.
And there are two subspecies of the parasite, but I'm focusing on the West African sleeping sickness because it constitutes like 97% of all the cases.
Gosh, I didn't know that. Wow.
Yeah, there's East African sleeping sickness, which from what I read, it progresses much, much faster.
Wow.
So it's more deadly just because of how quickly it kills somebody. And it mostly is zoonotic, so cases are less from person to person and more from animal to person.
Oh my gosh.
So you don't see it as often, but it's bad when you do. So in West African sleeping sickness, the disease occurs in two stages. And the first stage is the hemolymphatic stage.
Oh no. Sounds bad.
Hemo, blood, lymphatic, lymph nodes. And this stage causes intermediate fever, headaches, joint pains, itching, and swelling of lymph nodes.
Ugh.
And this can go on for, it seems like months. And the weird thing about the fever is you'll have a fever for a little bit, and then it'll go away, and you might think you're getting better, and then the fever comes back.
No.
So the second phase of the disease is the neurological phase, in which the parasites invades the central nervous system by passing through the blood-brain barrier. That's not good.
That's very bad.
Yeah. So this stage causes a disruption in the 24-hour sleep cycle, which kind of gives it African sleeping sickness its name, because it causes a lot of daytime sleep and then nighttime restlessness. So they're just completely like out of sync. And other symptoms of this stage include tremors, confusion, muscle weakness, limb paralysis, and psychotic reactions.
Oh my God.
And then without treatment, the patient falls into a coma, undergoes systematic organ failure, and dies. Like almost 100% of the cases, that's what happens without treatment.
So you can't fight it. It will kill you.
Unless you have treatment.
Wow.
But
That's
your
crazy.
internal system is not going to fight it.
Oh my God.
So usually you die within 3 years of getting
3
it.
years?
Yeah. Up to 7 years.
Time.
But yeah, it's slowly. I don't know how quickly you fall into a coma, but yeah. And then if you treat it, whatever neurological damage you have is irreversible. So the faster you treat it, the better, because you can't get back that brain.
Have they dissected people's brains with the disease?
I would imagine so, but I did not look up anything about that.
I would think maybe they could do that to see what parts of the brain are responsible for circadian rhythm regulation a little bit. You know, because it's screwing up their sleeping problems, so maybe... I
should have looked this up, but I didn't want to get too much into the disease. But there's something about there's something that these parasites produce that I think is a chemical that actually affects your sleep system and then causes you to go into a coma.
Wow.
I don't remember what it was, but...
Yeah, that's okay.
Yeah. Okay, so now we're going to leave Disease Corner and go back to Louise Pearce.
Yeah.
So
Louise.
Yes, exactly. So at this time, sleeping sickness plagued many African countries, specifically the Congo, which was a Belgian colony at that time.
Okay.
And the Rockefeller Institute was trying to find a solution to sleeping sickness. So at this time, there was a big outbreak, and I couldn't find death toll.
Yeah.
But a previous big epidemic of sleeping sickness between 1896 and 1906 caused between 300,000 and 500,000 deaths in Africa.
Oh my gosh.
So that's kind of the context of when she's working, is after this has occurred. And previously, Paul Ehrlich discovered that an arsenic compound was effective as a treatment for syphilis.
Huh.
And so this caused Dr. Flexner, the head of the Rockefeller Institute, and colleagues to try to find other arsenic compounds that could be used for African sleeping sickness.
Wow. But isn't arsenic a poison?
Yes.
Wow.
But I think, so there was something about arsenic, certain components of it, it seemed, could pass into the brain. And so then be toxic to where the protozoa were, or where the disease was.
And maybe if you don't take too much of it, it's not toxic.
Yeah.
Super toxic to you.
Yeah. So they found in 1919, Dr. Jacobs and Dr. Heidelberger found a compound called triparsamide. So triparsamide, trypanosomiasis, very similar. I'm guessing they named it because it...
After the trypanosome.
Yeah. They found this compound and they isolated it, and then they found that it was highly effective in destroying the infectious agents of sleeping sickness, known as trypanosomes, which are cause sleeping sickness. And triparsamide could reach the cerebrospinal fluid in considerable concentrations, and once it got into your cerebral spinal fluid, it could kill the disease, because that's where it was.
That's really cool.
Yeah. However, this has not been tested on humans yet.
Oh, gotcha.
So they'd only done this in rabbits and found, oh, great, we can get rid of African sleeping sickness in rabbits. And so in 1920, a severe outbreak of African sleeping sickness occurred in the Congo. And originally the Rockefeller Institute wanted to send Dr. Brown to the Congo to test this new drug. However, Dr. Brown was a family man and wasn't very interested in going. And so Dr. Pearce, on the other hand, was attracted to the idea of field research and adventure.
Aww.
And so she volunteered to go.
Nice.
And so this wasn't like she went as the head of something. She went alone to the Congo as a woman to test this new drug. So while in the Congo, she studied the effects of this new drug on over 70 patients. And I couldn't find out any details about if this was voluntary or, you know, how they figured out who to test this on or anything about, like, the scheme of that.
Oh.
But since the disease is pretty much 100%
maybe
deadly,
infected people were like,
please.
anything.
Yeah. But yeah, so this drug could only really increase your chances of surviving.
Wow.
I feel like back in the day, when people tested things on humans, you're always like, maybe that doesn't fly. But in this case, it could only increase your survival.
They test a lot more stuff more readily.
Yeah, just
everyone.
Inmates, orphans.
Oh, gosh.
Anyways, so what Dr. Pearce observed when she had tested this new drug on these patients was complete eradication of the parasite in both the blood and nervous system in only a matter of weeks and with seemingly no side effects at low doses.
Wow.
So I found different results, but this treatment was between 80% and 90% effective in getting rid of African sleeping sickness from the body.
God.
So it was super, super successful. And this was the first treatment for African sleeping sickness. And so this work won her international acclaim and drew the attention of Belgian officials because they solved a big problem.
Yeah.
And they...
like, how can we take over this land if there's this terrible disease?
And they awarded her the Ancient Order of the Crown in 1921, which is one of Belgium's highest honors.
Do they still have royalty in Belgium?
Mm-hmm. I think so. That's all the information I have.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know anything about Belgium.
And she was also elected as a member of the Belgian Society of Tropical Medicine. And from then on, every year from 1921 to 1939, she traveled to Europe to attend scientific meetings and other scientific activities as part of this.
That's cool.
Yeah. So she then returned to the Rockefeller Institute and was promoted to associate member in 1923. So I guess they don't have, like, professors because they're not teaching, they're researching, and so they just have, like, they're called members.
Okay.
So her accomplishments should have, from one source I found, which is the only source that talked in depth about her at all, her accomplishments should have qualified her to be a full member with more freedom, but due to the Great Depression, the Rockefeller Institute didn't have enough funds to promote her at that time.
Oh, wow.
However, even after the Great Depression, she never made it to full member. So I don't have any information about, like, why that was, but
yeah, I guess, like, my first thought would be that she's a woman.
Yeah, and as an associate member, you were always, it seems like from when I was reading, you were always under some other professor.
I see.
So she was never an independent.
That sucks.
Yeah. So in 1924, she was elected to the Royal Society of... Did I just say that? No. I said the Belgian Society. She was also elected to the Royal Society. The Royal Society of Tropical Medicine and Hygiene.
Oh, okay.
And also
Is that in Belgium?
No, I think this was UK, but I'm not positive.
Okay.
And then in 1924, she returned to Africa, I'm guessing back to the Congo, though I couldn't find any specific information on that, to conduct even larger trials. Wow. And in this visit, she confirmed that tryparsamide was effective in humans even at late stage of infection, which they hadn't tried yet, but that there were side effects when giving large doses at these late stage.
Oh, okay.
So large doses had been used for treatment in advanced cases of African sleeping sickness, but had resulted in damaged vision and even blindness in some cases. So
oh my God.
It's bad to wait.
Yeah.
So at this time, she urged her departmental head, Dr. Flexner, to end these trials and to just begin widespread treatments of the disease. And so he agreed, and so once the widespread treatment of the disease began, she served as the contact for physicians conducting more trials and also as a medical consulting delegate for the International Conference of Christian Missions in Africa. Huh. So she was kind of in charge of overseeing all of these treatments of what is it?
Really cool.
Tryparsamide. And it was so hard to find. I kept trying to find, like, how many people got treated. Yeah. And, you know, how many lives did this potentially save? And she has a paper in Science where she kind of catalogs how many people in Africa they actually kind of brought in and tested for this disease. And it seems like at least 6 million people they tested.
Oh my god.
And then a couple 100,000 people they treated.
Wow.
And I don't have any more specific, but so they treated a huge number of people.
At least, like, I'm sure they saved thousands of lives.
Yeah, probably hundreds, like, especially if it's hundreds of thousands that they're treating, and it's 80 to 90% effective.
Yeah.
So.
That's pretty incredible.
But, yeah, I was surprised I just couldn't find.
Yeah, I'm sure, like, most people here didn't care that much. Yeah. And there weren't people really documenting it. But it's good that she cared and, like, wanted to get this out there to treat people. Yeah.
And also, she's also putting herself in danger because...
Yeah, she could get the disease.
Yeah, she could definitely get the disease. And she was going alone, which is...
I know, I don't even like to leave my apartment alone. Yeah, that is really...
So, in 1930, her work on these... trials and of these treatments that they were giving in mostly the Congo, but also other places in Africa, were published in 1930, titled "The Treatment of Human Trypanosomiasis with Tryparsamide: A Critical Review." Wow. And then during this time, she was back in New York City. Oh, this is our new section. Well, our old section. So she came back from Africa. She wrote up this big report on what she had found. Yeah. And then she moved on to syphilis. So this is a returning segment of the program, Keep Your Junk Safe. We haven't seen it in a while.
I forgot we even had that segment. I was like, the trivia section? Like, it's kind of the whole podcast is a trivia section.
No, Keep Your Junk Safe.
We need a good theme song for Keep Your Junk Safe.
Oh, that could be so good.
Okay, we'll think about this.
Yeah.
Put your junk in that box!
Sorry, Mom.
Good thing we have the explicit rating.
Yeah.
Okay, so during this time, when she came back from Africa, Dr. Pearce collaborated with Dr. Brown to study syphilis. And syphilis infection in the nervous system at this point was untreatable. Ooh. The nervous system is the third stage of syphilis because there's like these 3 stages. There's 1 where you have a sore, stage 2 where you have a rash, and stage 3 when it gets into your nervous system. So I don't know if they had treatments for 1 and 2, and then they didn't have a treatment for once they got to stage 3. Okay. But regardless.
Yeah.
So Dr. Pearce and Dr. Brown used their rabbit model system to study the effect of the same drug, tryparsamide, on syphilis as well. Oh. And they knew that tryparsamide was able to penetrate the brain and nervous system, and so they thought that potentially this drug could also kill the syphilis spirochetes that were in the nervous system.
It's a bacteria.
Yeah, it's a bacteria. It's just... They proved that this drug as well, in combination with an artificial fever, I just have in parentheses, what?
Like they heated someone up really hot?
I think so. I was reading things, and before they would give someone some type of malaria, like inject them with, I would imagine, some partially dead malaria to get them to have a fever response.
So kind of like a vaccine, like they're trying to get the immune system to respond.
Yeah. And heat, because apparently having a strong fever was a good way to can kill syphilis. So tryparsamide combined with an artificial fever was a successful method for treatment of syphilis.
Now, I feel like I don't hear about that anymore, which maybe you'll explain. Like,
no, I probably won't.
I don't know anyone with syphilis, but also I've never like heard of someone like taking a hot bath
Yeah, I don't think you can just take a hot bath and get rid of your syphilis. I think it's a little more in depth.
Yeah.
But,
go to the sauna or something.
Yeah. I'm just going to the sauna to clear my syphilis.
Yeah.
I'll be better by morning.
Like, please leave the sauna.
Yeah, please don't go in the public sauna to clear your syphilis.
Not trying to shame.
No, but that seems like a bad idea.
Yeah, no.
Okay, so this treatment for syphilis was used until the discovery of penicillin.
Oh, okay.
By Alexander Fleming.
Yeah.
And so then that's what they use.
Okay.
Yeah.
I see.
Yeah. Yep. So Pearce studied syphilis in rabbits and found that one rabbit had a malignant tumor of the scrotum. Ouch. That could be successfully grown in other rabbits.
Ooh.
A little callback.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, this will be.
To Sarah Elizabeth Stewart?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. So Pearce studied what factors affected the susceptibility of a rabbit host to these implanted tumor cells. So what were the factors that caused a rabbit to be more susceptible to getting these tumor cells to successfully implant? And this well-characterized tumor was called the brown Pearce tumor or carcinoma, and became a popular cell culture in the study of cancer.
That's great.
Yeah. Good job, rabbit balls.
So cool she has a tumor named after her.
Yeah. After the rabbit testes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
Is scrotum?
The skin around.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah. It's the sac. Is that not a good term?
I have to tell my mom not to listen to this episode. I just told her last night, like, yeah, have a listen. You might like it. Or, like, and I think she told, like, my cousin's kids to listen, like, teenage kids to listen.
Well, they need to know what a scrotum is, too.
Yeah, and this is the best way to learn about it.
It's actually partially sex ed class, partial women in history. Yeah. All right. So after these rabbit tumors, okay, so in 1931, Dr. Pearce went to the Peiping Union Medical College in Peking, now known as Beijing, as a visiting professor of syphilology. And syphilology is the study of the diagnosis and treatment of syphilis.
Yeah.
So Dr. Pearce traveled to China with 125 rabbits infected with syphilis in order to compare the Western...
How did she transfer all those
rabbits?
know.
This is why maybe it is important that we know if it's plane or train or automobile.
Train or boat.
Probably boat.
Wait, she was traveling from where to where?
From New York
to
Beijing.
Gotta be boat.
Yeah. With 125.
Wait, and this was what year?
1931. We definitely have planes, but I don't know if we have commercial planes.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like all those rabbits would be a little heavy for a plane.
So many
she
diseased
just bought,
rabbits.
Like, all the seats on a plane for each little syphilis rabbit. It'd be like kind of cute and really sad at the same time.
So she brought all these rabbits in order to compare the Western strain of syphilis with the Eastern strain.
Wow.
But her work in China was cut short by civil wars raging in China.
Right.
And at this time, Japan had invaded Manchuria, and many of her fellow visiting professors had been sent to Shanghai for safety. And so Pearce returned home. But what she did find was that the syphilis strains were the same, but the rabbit species were different.
Wow, that's funny. Oh my god.
Okay, so she returned home. Yeah, so Pearce and Brown's experiments on rabbits were severely set back when a smallpox-like disease decimated her rabbit colonies.
That sucks.
Yeah, that's bad news. However, on a flip side, they determined that with the aid of Paul Rosehahn, Harry Green, and C.K. Hugh, that the disease was caused by a virus and that it was actually a great system to study human smallpox.
Oh.
So they had a paper out, studying human smallpox.
How did the rabbits get smallpox, do you think?
It's very good. It's airborne.
Oh, yeah, that's true, I guess.
Smallpox is a terrible, terrible thing.
I'm so glad it's gone.
Except it's still here.
There's 2 Did you know there's 2 vials of smallpox, or 2 stocks of it, and one is in Atlanta at the CDC, and one is in a research center in Russia.
Yeah.
That is so fucked up.
Well, apparently there's also... So those are the official ones.
Right.
And that there's probably... Because, like, a bunch of labs across the world had them. And then they're... Like, the U.S. and Russia were like, you need to give us all of your smallpox.
Which is like...
And then people were probably like, no.
nuclear bomb, basically.
Yeah. So, like, there's probably people who still have smallpox somewhere.
Well, the virus, not the...
Yeah, they don't have the disease, but there are probably stores of the culture of...
But, I mean, we have enough vaccine to treat most people.
Do we?
If there's an outbreak. Not everyone, but if there's an outbreak, we can treat it.
It's good to know.
We have like a huge stockpile of the smallpox vaccine.
That's good. Excellent.
Anyway, just trying to scare everyone.
Yeah, nobody worry.
With things we shouldn't have to worry about.
Yeah. Okay. So we learned things about smallpox from these rabbits, right? And then in 1935, Brown's research group with Dr. Pearce moved to a new facility at Princeton that was still part of the Rockefeller Institute.
Oh, cool.
However, Dr. Brown became ill and had to downsize his projects. And because Dr. Pearce was under kind of the supervision of Dr. Brown, she's still not independent, that negatively affected Dr. Pearce's research. So, because she had to downsize her stuff then, too. And then in 1942, Dr. Brown died and Dr. Pearce finished his experiments and papers after his death. However, so 5 years later, in 1945, Dr. Pearce was asked by the Rockefeller Center to conclude her experimentation and was granted 3 years full pay to write up all of the results.
Oh.
And then she was followed by half pay until her retirement. Couldn't find anything else about that.
Weird.
So I don't know...
Like, if she was working half-time, or...
Yeah, I don't know the context of this at all.
Yeah.
If they were just like, all right, well, you only get half pay because we're not letting you do any more experiments.
Yeah.
Or if she was doing other things.
Huh.
Yeah, so I don't know how sketchy that is.
Yeah.
And then she retired, I think, in 1951.
Wow.
Throughout her career, Dr. Pearce was a supporter of women's rights and of women's education.
Nice.
And from 1946 to 1951, she was the president of the Women's Medical College of Pennsylvania and was the director of the American Association of University Women.
Wow.
In 1953, she was awarded the King Leopold Prize of $10,000 by Belgium. Okay, so now I'm going to get into some of her personal life.
Okay.
And the little bit of it that we know.
Yeah.
So Louise Pearce was a part of a radical feminist organization.
Hell yeah.
For unorthodox women. That's what that was. If you wanted to be part of this, you had to say that you were an unorthodox woman.
Huh.
And they were known as Heterodoxy, and it was in Greenwich Village. And Heterodoxy was notable in that it provided a forum for more radical concepts of feminism than the suffrage and women's club movements of the time.
Interesting.
So some of the women in the groups, they were bisexual, they were lesbian, they had divorced their husbands, they had kept their maiden names, they had, some other ideas besides just kind of voting rights and stuff like that.
Yeah,
that they were promoting.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So that were a little more controversial than the larger suffrage movement was about.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Group members considered themselves heterodites, and many were, as I said, bisexual or lesbian. And in 1917 and 1918, suffrage protests for heterodites were arrested and served time in the Occoquan workhouse, in jail, or in prison psychiatric wards.
No.
Yeah. Because, of course, you have any woman that's uprising or speaking her mind, and then you put her in a psych ward.
That's awful.
Of
hysteria.
Yeah, hysteria.
Yeah.
So there is one book that I'll post that I didn't have time to read that's about heterodoxy. And the feminists in it, about this movement. And it was actually like they met during, it was like a weekly luncheon. So it sounds really hardcore, but it was also very, at lunch. It wasn't like, rocking out at night.
Oh my gosh.
So little else is known about this organization because one of the founding principles of heterodoxy was the formal prohibition of press and official documentation. Because they were so radical that they didn't want to jeopardize. And a lot of them were radical and also scientists or doctors or authors, professionals. So they, didn't want to have anything tying them to very radical feminist ideas. So although there is very little known about her private life, besides being part of this group, she did live with two other women, physician Sarah Josephine Baker.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, okay. That's who I've heard of.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize that they were in a relationship.
Maybe.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. So she lived with physician Sarah Josephine Baker. And Sarah Josephine Baker is one of the people who found Typhoid Molly.
Yeah.
Typhoid Mary. Yeah, she found Typhoid Mary.
Molly.
Her younger sister, who's just rolling. And she also lived with author Ida Wiley, who is a pretty famous author, or was a pretty famous author at the time, and went only by her initials because she didn't want to, be besmirched for being an author that was a woman.
Oh my gosh.
So all of these members were part of Heterodoxy. So all three of them were Heterodoxy members. And when Louise Pearce moved to Princeton, Baker and Wiley also left New York City and moved in with her at Trevana Farm that was in Skillman, New Jersey.
Wow.
And although Josephine Baker died in 1945, Pearce and Wiley continued to live together on the farm, and Dr. Pearce fell ill on an ocean liner on her way home from Europe and died on August 9th, 1959 in New York City. And Dr. Wiley died 3 months later. And Wiley and Pearce were buried together on Trevana Farm. So you don't really know what their relationship was or with Josephine Baker. But Wiley, she wrote a biography and talked a lot about how she liked women a lot more than men and kind of went on. So it's a little more clear that she was probably more interested in women than men. But what all three of their relationships were, besides being badass ladies, it's hard to know. But very supportive of LGBTQ.
That's good.
And so.
Wow.
So that's.
I want to read more about this group.
Yes.
Sounds incredible.
It sounds like a great read. I'll throw it up on the website. Yeah. Because I don't remember what it's called, but yeah. So that's Louise Pearce.
Wow, I love that.
Yeah.
She sounds pretty cool.
Yeah.
Is African sleeping sickness not super prevalent anymore, but it's still, you can still contract it, right? You definitely can. And it's a rising from what I was reading, I didn't get too much into modern issues. And there was a lot of different numbers, but there was some articles that said that there was 48,000 deaths in 2008 from African sleeping sickness. Wow. And that's gone down, but now it might be going back up. But then other sources I found seem to make it seem like it wasn't that high. Yeah.
So I don't quite know, but it definitely is still a big problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She must have really just cared about people and wanted to help people.
Yeah, I would really love to know more of what drove her to want to be a doctor and
especially
any quotes from her. I looked up I was just I was Louise Pearce quotes, and then it was just quotes from a bunch of men unrelated because they were just oh, you want quotes?
Must have been hard for her to become a doctor even. Most women were nurses in that time. Even now it's not as hard for women to become doctors, but it's just a more male-dominated field.
For sure. Yeah, there just wasn't enough information to even figure out how many struggles she went through.
Yeah.
But she was definitely cool. Yeah. Very cool lady. And
work.
This is our next section, the women who work.
Yeah, where we give some shout-outs to current ladies of science making history today. All right. Are you ready, Emlyn?
I'm so ready. Take me away.
Take me away.
What song is that?
That sailing song. Sailing. I can't listen to this again. I don't know why I sing so much on this podcast, because I hate listening to myself sing. You don't know the sailing song?
No.
Okay.
I know Sail.
It's a good summer song.
Sail. Sail.
No, different song.
What is a Take Me Away song?
Sailing.
No, not this. Take me. Okay, anyways. Take me away.
Take me to church?
Yes. Take me to science.
Take me to women of work. No. Take me to work. No,
Okay.
Whatever. I'm so over myself. Okay, wait. So, shout outs this week.
Yes, tell me.
Are you ready?
We've verified that I am ready.
Yeah, that's right. You want me to take you away.
Yes.
Okay. They go to 2 efforts coordinated by the amazing members of the 500 Women Scientists
nice.
Group. Yeah.
Awesome.
And you might have seen both of these, but I just wanted to shout out this group and a couple of the cool things that they're doing for anyone that's interested in getting involved. So 500 Women Scientists is a grassroots organization founded by 4 female scientists, and their mission is to quote, serve society by making science open, inclusive, and accessible, which is a pretty good mission.
Yeah, I agree.
They have all sorts of different campaigns and local groups around the world that are all working to support that mission in a ton of different ways. So, but I'm just going to highlight 2 of their campaigns from this week. So one, I think we retweeted this, but on June 2nd, the group held a Wikipedia edit-a-thon.
Oh, yes. I loved this.
Really fun. Yeah. In New York City, where a bunch of them got together and worked for a few hours to edit or produce Wikipedia pages for female scientists. And they wrote pages for even current scientists like Frances Cologne and Lynn Ridderford. And while that event is over, I think you could just do this anytime.
Yeah.
If you wanted to.
Yeah.
And if you know how to edit Wikipedia
And
pages.
if you know facts.
Yeah. If you have good sources or just see that someone's Wikipedia page isn't filled out when it could be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah, I just wanted to kind of encourage anyone listening, I don't know, to go ahead and contribute if you can. And so I thought that was really cool. And another thing that they just started, or one member of the group, Dr. Lauren Esposito, just started an offshoot campaign called 500 Queer Scientists.
Yes, I've seen this.
Yeah, which has the vision to increase visibility for LGBTQ plus people and their allies working in STEM and STEM supporting jobs. And the goals of this campaign specifically are to ensure the next STEM generation has LGBTQ role models. They want to help the current generation recognize they're not alone. And they want to create a database that facilitates diversity among speakers and panelists, which is a lot of the same things 500 women scientists have done, but that's just so much bigger. And now they want visibility for queer scientists.
It's awesome. It's a good time to do it.
It
as
is
part
a
of
good
June.
time. Yeah. And Lauren Esposito herself is a really cool assistant curator and Schlinger Chair of Arachnology at the California Academy of Sciences.
I know you can't help yourself with arachnology.
No, I can't.
Yeah, you love it.
Her. And she's also the co-founder of a science, education, and conservation nonprofit called Islands and Seas.
Ooh.
And her research is on the patterns and processes of evolution in spiders, scorpions, and their venoms.
Oh, very cool.
So she is just badass.
Yeah.
And she's now doing this whole new campaign.
Super important.
Yeah. So anyone can support the campaign by sharing it or posting about it on their own social media, and we'll give you links to their Twitters and Instagram online.
Yeah. And
if possible, and if you want to, you can also submit your own story. So right now they're gathering stories from LGBTQ scientists, just to make these scientists more visible to everyone. just knowing others are out there that are like you, I think is really helpful in staying in science careers.
Definitely.
So those are my shout-outs for the week.
I love it.
Yeah.
They're great. Yeah, I've been seeing those a lot on Twitter.
Yeah,
and
same.
it's a great campaign.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Oh, yeah, so I guess that's our sode.
Yeah, our total sode. If you like the show, please, please, please rate, review, subscribe to us on iTunes. This is really important to help other people find our show. And you can find us on Twitter. What did I say? Twitter. At StemFatalPod, and on Facebook now at StemFatalPod.
Yeah. And
you can email us too at StemFatalPod
Yeah.
at gmail.com. And thanks to our theme song, thanks to
the song itself.
Yeah, thank you, Mary Anning theme song by Artichoke. And our cover art is by Caitlin Friesen, so thank you. I think that's it.
That is it.
Stemulator?
Yeah, stemulator.
Stemulator.